we pitched every big Fortune 500 we could when we were starting, and they were all kind of the same, which was like, you got no track record of your own. Yeah. You got a great resume. Call me in 5 years if you're still in business.
Hello, and welcome to Why Design. I'm your host, Chris White, and this is episode 5 of series 3, which means we're now approaching the midpoint of the series. So far, we've heard from Brett Lovelady, Emily Williams, Sam Shames, and Stuart Lee, and there's still plenty more to come. But this episode, recorded in person during my trip to Boston, gave me the rare chance to slow down a bit and spend real time with someone I've followed and admired for a long time. Jordan Nollman, founder and CEO of Sprout Studios. Now, Jordan didn't just show up for a podcast, he opened the door to his world. He hosted me while I was in town, introduced me to a load of great people in the local design scene, and even invited me to sit in on a project kickoff meeting with the team, something which I've never done before. And if you're watching the video version, you'll spot me wearing a Sprout cap, a parting gift from Jordan before I left Boston. As for the episode itself, Jordan shares how he's built Sprout into one of the most respected design studios in the US, with a client list that includes Bose, Colgate, Honda, LG, and Stanley. He's also got over 30 patents to his name and cut his teeth at top design consultancies like Astro, IDEO, Zebra, and Razorfish before starting his own thing. On this episode, we dive into what it really takes to build a design consultancy that lasts, how to balance creative leadership with business ownership, why mentorship and community have always been central to his approach, and how he's thinking about growth, legacy, and staying creatively fulfilled. This one's a proper behind-the-scenes look at running a design business, with a refreshing amount of honesty and insight. So let's get into it. Jordan, really good to have you on the podcast. Thanks for making the trip and for being a very generous host. It's been and guide to Boston for myself. So great to finally sit down with you. So Jordan Nollman, you're a multi-disciplinary designer, founder and CEO of Sprout Studios, a Boston-based design consultancy known for its award-winning work across consumer electronics, healthcare, beauty, soft goods, and much more. And over the last 20 or so years, you've worked with big brands like Bose, Colgate, LG, Seagate, Honda, and Cola, as well as dozens of startups. You've held senior creative roles at IDEO, Astro Studios, and Zebra, earning dozens of patents and helping generate hundreds of millions in revenue and funding for your clients. Sprout's now over 50 employees and has grown across three divisions. So Sprout Studios, Sprout Ventures, and Sprout Labs. So you're helping startups and building your own IP. And you're still very hands-on with the work as well, whilst also speaking at Harvard, MIT, and CS. And you're deeply rooted in the Boston and San Francisco design scenes, building Sprout into a powerhouse by balancing vision, culture, and hustle. And just in the short time that we've spent together in the last couple of days, a number of people you've introduced me to, and we've met at kind of various things we've been to, it's clear, you're a well-liked member of the design community. So pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Not at all. Yeah, really looking forward to diving into this. Explore what it takes on this episode, what it takes to build and grow a successful industrial design studio in 2025. We're going to talk through your story, the evolution of Sprout Studios, and we're going to dig into some of your career highlights, growth of Sprout from scrappy beginnings to a 50-plus person studio, realities of running a consultancy, creative ops, hiring and systems, business development. Really dive into how kind of you win work and build relationships, the state of the design industry and what's next, and then the Boston design community, and what you're excited about. So hopefully I've not thrown you off too much, because I think we've changed the script ever so slightly, but we're looking forward to
no worries.
dive in.
That's a good intro, and thanks for doing it.
No, not at all. No, let's dive in, shall we? Always start with the question, why design? So where did it all start for you? What first drew you into industrial design?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going to go way back, like to childhood, of course, because that's kind of where it starts for most of us, between like curiosity and like just creativity. That's kind of a big part of it. I also think it's, family history. So like my grandfather was a photographer. He also ran his own business. My grandmother was a painter. My uncle was an artist. My dad was a school teacher / creative writer. My mom started as, I think, at camp. She was like an art teacher at camps. Then she got into retail sales. But it's definitely like in the blood, for sure. So that was like one thing. And then like, as a kid, I think it's like everybody kind of tinkers with stuff. But like for me, it was some of the obvious stuff. Like I was obviously super into toys, one from the play side, but also like I would like dismantle my like figures heads and glue them onto other ones. And I'd take vehicles and figure out some other way to compile them into like, massive trucks that were just, way bigger than what I was getting. And then I'd start building my own stuff, and that would be like with whatever random tools I could find around the house and boards of wood and so on. And I think ultimately like a lot of it rolled into like what, at least when I was in school, I just drew a ton as a kid. I didn't take any really formal art training. I just drew all the time. And then on top of that, I think like Legos is, if I think of like one toy that really defined my childhood, is like I had a massive Lego kingdom. Like it wasn't the term master builder back in the day when I was a kid, but like I would say on that level, I still play with my kids and build these crazy castles pretty quickly, and our own stuff as well.
Awesome.
So that kind of got me into it. And then, the reality is like, this is kind of the story that I think of when I found design. I was at brunch with my dad and my uncle, student in high school, D- just because they didn't want to keep me any extra years than they needed to. They want to get me the hell out of the school. Wasn't an awful troublemaker, but I got in enough trouble. But also I was smart. It just, I wasn't applying it because I didn't have anything else I'd interested in. And so, my uncle and dad goes back to the toys. I says, what do you want to do, when you get older? And I was like, I want to design toys. And they were both kind of like pondering on it. Like, My uncle says, I think that's industrial design. I have a friend that does this. Like, oh, cool. Like, maybe I can talk to him. So we would kind of meet, every other week we would hang out, my dad and my uncle and I. And then next time he brings this book, like this massive book of colleges. And he's like, oh, here's the book of art schools. And like, here's industrial design. And like, we just opened up the pages. And my friend Bob Stilton said, he's an industrial designer. He recommends RIT. And I was just like, oh, what's that? Okay, cool. Open the book, see it. I'm like, okay, it's interesting. Literally the next day, so it was a Sunday, Monday, going to school. RIT was visiting my high school.
Oh, wow.
I grew up in Framingham, 20 miles south of here.
Yeah.
Or sorry, west of here. So, wow, this is like serendipity or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Right? It's just too much to not go. And I was like, I'm going. So I show up. There's nobody there, just the one guy from RIT. I get like a full hour with the guy. And he's like, oh, so like, how are your grades? I'm like, they're awful. And he's like, well, let me see your, like, what else do you do? And I was like, oh, I like to draw. I pulled up my sketchbook. At the time, I was doing a lot of graffiti. I was making lots of stuff in wood shop, a bunch of sketches. And he's like, oh, you know what you're doing? How was art class here? I was like, I don't take art class here. I was like, I take wood shop. I don't really do art class. And then from there, he was like, well, you should come visit us. This was like, I don't know, what will happen, but you should come visit us. And so sure enough, like next Sunday comes around, meet with my dad and my uncle again and go, hey, we're going to go to RIT. And so I kind of got the bug. And I kind of started researching. There was no internet back then, so literally everything was just in books. And so I didn't really know much until I got to the school. We show up there. It was like a 7-hour drive from Boston. I thought we were going to New York City. I was like, oh, wait, that's the other way. Basically almost in Toronto. Anyways, so we show up and I meet Toby Thompson, who was the chair of the department. And he had like more like unbound energy than any human being I'd ever met at the time. And he's showing us around. He picks up like a model of this like beautiful thing. Like, oops. And like, he was just so excited. He dropped it, smashed all over the ground. Poor student, the model got smashed. I was just like, I want to do this, And so did the full tour, after that, I met Toby, but then we did the full department, the school. And I said, well, what do I need to do? And they said, well, you need a portfolio. And I was like, oh, and I pulled my book. I was like, no, that's not a portfolio, but that's good stuff. It's like, figure it out. My uncle's the artist. So at that point, I was like, how am I going to do this? It was in the junior year in high school, so our 11th grade. And I was like, all right, I'm going to figure this out. I worked during the summer and then kind of started taking independent studies all through high school. So I would go back to play sports and do other stuff. But because I kind of had this one track and honestly, I knew there was no other industrial design schools. I just thought there was only RIT. And this is my only shot and I got to get in. And so I basically moved with my uncle in Cambridge and just started doing art all the time, portfolio, the whole thing. I did my like resume. And I think it was an Amiga computer. I mean, this was like, it was Macs, but everything was pretty off. We had a lot of software back in the day, superimposed a picture of this thing we did when I was a kid in it and like put a whole portfolio together in about 3 months. And I show up with just about the same amount or maybe more energy at that point that Toby had with the portfolio. And we get like the three of us, my dad, my uncle, and me walk into his office. And like he kind of just saw the energy and he saw a real portfolio and he's like, all right, you two out of here. And he sat down, within like 5 minutes, he's like, hold on, give me a second. He went up to my dad,
Yeah.
my uncle, and said something, but he's like, basically, I finished the whole thing probably 20 minutes later. When I come later to find out, I was like, he's in. Like, he basically told him he's in. So on the spot, which I don't know if they do that anymore, but I was like, that's pretty cool.
That is awesome. Yeah.
And so he was like, you did it. Like, I've never seen a transition like this. Like, you've got it. So that was kind of how I found it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, I kind of really haven't looked back since. So.
That's awesome. So you set your sights on something, you've fallen in love with the idea and the energy, and then you've just kind of got at it, just dogged kind of, enthusiasm, just went all in.
Yeah.
That's,
head down.
Good lesson.
And it was great. I mean, in terms of also to have the support of my uncle and my family, and like a lot of people, like when you try to get into the arts, if you came from maybe a different family than what I had, would be like, absolutely not.
There's no money in arts.
Like for me, they were like, oh, hell yeah. Like, this sounds good. And he was like, oh, this is actually a little bit commercial too. It's not just art. So
that's awesome. Oh, brilliant. So has your why evolved over the years? I know you said that you've never looked back, but
not really. I think the biggest thing that evolved is I realized, like, I was a young entrepreneur as well, like some goofy stuff, but like, selling baseball cards and candy at school when I was a young age, but then like started a pretty legitimate like soda business on a golf course in my friend's backyard, to the point where the golf course came and saw us with a wad of cash one day and put a soda machine and put us out of business the whole before. But I got the bug early to make money and be independent and all that stuff. And then, over the years, I would like make my products too. Wood shop, I was making stuff that was kind of mass producible.
Yeah.
But so that was an early age. I think that was the other part that got added to design. And in terms of like the why, no, I don't think so. I mean, design, I'd say the biggest thing is just learning that design is kind of my life. Like I've integrated it in everything that I do. I'm thinking in design sense, trying to figure out a system, a process to deal with it. Anyways, I get really into it. Even on like the business and the ops side, I like the systems that we create that are really based on, user research, like us doing stuff in a studio and saying like, oh, we got to like fix the studio and use all our skills to do it. Which we just finished a 2-year rebuild of that, which has been great.
There's a lot to be said for applying design thinking to business systems and areas that you wouldn't necessarily traditionally associate with industrial design. But it's so applicable, isn't it?
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. So perhaps you could give us a flyover of your career from kind of internship through to kind of founding Sprout. I know that there's a lot of people that we both know that you've worked with, the likes of, Brett Lovelady, who's been on or coming on the show, Astro. You spent some time at IDEO as well. Perhaps you could kind of talk us through kind of the early stages.
I'll also start at the beginning of that. I think one, like being from the Boston area and going to RIT, which I realize now, not then, is a big deal because there's a lot of grads in Boston. So it made kind of market penetration really easy. So as a sophomore, I was telling the story last night, I'll tell it again. First internship, interview ever. Mom took me to get a suit. I'm a big guy. I was pretty intimidating in a suit. I felt really awkward. I walk into New Balance, which at the time was up in Lawrence in their old headquarters. Big mill building. Everybody's looking like me today, shorts and sneakers. And I'm like, hold on, I'll be right back. So I run out, go into the bathroom, like basically get down to just a white t-shirt. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. Have my interview. Was hired by Stephanie Howard, who's probably one of the more renowned footwear designers of the last last 3 decades or so, 2 decades.
Wow.
So she hired me, which was great. And I got the sophomore internship, which is kind of rare at the time. I could stop moving furniture, which is great. Everybody I met there, and I met probably one of my biggest mentors, John Rapp, who's just a good friend. He's been in Patagonia forever. I haven't seen him in a while, but like just, kind of started showing me about both design and life. And like, obviously that like, I don't know, that work-play balance being huge. So it started there. A lot of the people from there I've kept up with. And I just realized networking was also something I was really good at. We'll talk probably a lot about that. And then from there, it was just kind of like the go button. So it was like, did an internship. It was called Proteus at the time. I think you went to Motive yesterday. So Motive, that internship eventually turned into a full-time job at some point. It just worked my way around that Boston community, right? And so like, it was that connection, I guess, with Stephanie because she went to RIT. and the rest of the community. Then that turned to, I mean, I'm not going to remember, but it ultimately, like numbers wise, was like 15 jobs in 5 years in Boston,
Wow.
working at IDEO, working at 11, working at Manta, Altitude. Razorfish was another big one. Proteus, obviously. And so I had a lot of like 3-month contracts, and then Razorfish was at the end, was about a year and a half. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But that was really cool as well. But again, it's just that community and like learning how to market yourself and like just always staying in front of people, but not being annoying, which is kind of what I have to do with clients today too. You know, obviously there's a lot of crap going on in the economy right now, but I'm like, all right, how do I slowly kind of stay in there? And honestly, like when I got out of college, I had 200 interviews from the time I started to when I finished. And that was because whenever I would go somewhere, I'd be like, I'm setting up 10 interviews. So I went to San Francisco. I'd met Astro at the IDSA conference in San Diego, I think the year before. I saw him speak. Rob Bruce gave this crazy speech. I saw him for 2 minutes, and he like took off because he had to get back to work on a plane to San Francisco for something. And it just made a huge impression on me because it was more about culture. And like it was cool work, obviously, but it was more about the culture. Kept in touch with them, then visited when I did one of these whirlwind tours of 11 interviews. And this was like really cool back in the day in San Francisco. Went to all the firms. They were all in Palo Alto at the time. I remember walking in and like I had an interview with Kyle Swin, who was like kind of running the studio at that point. You know, Rob Bruce, Kyle and Brett started Astro. So I had this interview with Kyle set up, and I'm like, you know, actually pretty intimidated. I'm looking around, like see this huge guy at the desk, you know, like, hey, I'm here to like have an interview and Jordan, and I'm looking for Kyle, and he stands up like, hey, I'm Kyle, nice to meet you. Nice guy in the world. Proceed to meet everybody. I think I got an internship offer back then, but I could not even think about swinging San Francisco. You know, I was living at home and I was working in Boston. It was making a lot of sense. So, you know, fast forward, I guess 5 years, I'd done all this stuff in Boston. I'd actually started Sprout, which we'll talk about later. And they offered, you know, a contract, 6 months. It was a good point in my life to try something new. And I realized there was a lot of stuff in San Francisco that I was really into, between, you know, the tech startup scene, just that entrepreneurial vibe, and then just obviously that crazy awesome culture at Astro. And they were rebuilding. It was after the dot-com bust. So I showed up, there was like 5 or 6 people working there. And within like, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, it was doubled, tripled. It just kept going. So yeah, that's kind of my design story. I'm going to talk more about Sprout later. But yeah, that's kind of how I got here, I guess.
It's interesting because I know we were talking last night about the contract and staying front of mind. Even if you were on a 6-month contract, you were reaching out every month just to say, hey, I'm here. Kind of the contract might be renewed or whatever it is. But that's a really, really impressive muscle to kind of train. That once you build and get into that kind of consistency, staying front of mind, it makes it a lot easier to win business, whether it be contract or consultancy.
I mean, I think you nailed it. It's like staying front of mind is really important. And like, you know, something could change in 5 minutes. So you get off a call with a client, they kind of forget about you after 2 weeks because I guess there's so much other stuff coming. And then 2 weeks later, they get another email from you. That project came in. These guys would be perfect for it. That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of projects I've won kind of throughout my career, just because we've had a routine call scheduled like every 6 to 8 weeks or so. Even if there's nothing currently in the pipeline, it's like we'll just have a quick chat, a quick catch up in 6 weeks. And
it might not even be about whatever, you know, a job placement or whatever. It's just like you're catching up and you kind of just build this great relationship with people. I mean, it's kind of the funnest part of my job I didn't anticipate. It's just the relationship you've built, you know, you end up knowing people's families, their stories, everything. It's great. So seeing their kids grow.
It's amazing, isn't it? But then it makes it so much easier when there is a requirement, or in the amount of times I've been on that. Actually, it's a good time. It's a good that we had this call, Chris, because, you know, yesterday we just signed this thing that just came out of the blue. It's been in the background for 3 years. We didn't think it was ever going to come off, and now we need some support. You know, and I bet you've had plenty of those over the years. Awesome. Well, let's talk about just in terms of the kind of the early career highlights. Are there any projects or moments that you think back to kind of that really defined you, or were kind of helped shape your trajectory?
I would say, I mean, my first like real studio experience was in Boston at 11. You know, they just finished, I think, side binding. We were working on new stuff. This is for Burton. You know, I was a snowboarder. It was super cool. So it got me into just the right mindset, working for the right people with the right culture. which was awesome. And there's 4 partners at the time. Everybody's very different. And it's good to get to kind of meet those guys. I think I've said this. The one thing I really value through my career is that I've always been treated almost as an equal, even at a young age.
Yeah.
And I think it was just because I was curious and interested and asked enough questions, but not annoying questions.
Yeah.
Anyways, and being president always, honestly, one little thing, like if, for younger designers, it goes a long way to like every day before you leave to ask if there's anything else you can do to help, like just kind of manners, so to speak. That goes a really long way. So I was always kind of eager for that stuff. So that was kind of the beginning. I got to go to IDEO. I saw like the first redo of the Polaroid cameras come out.
Oh, awesome.
I think I bit myself in the foot. I think it was Scott Stropsky put this thing on my desk. He's one of the old owners of Essential. It's like, what do you think? And I was like, I kind of went off. I wasn't really into this design. I was very object-y and whatever. The product was cool what it did. And I like to bring back the brand. And I was like, and I didn't kind of realize even what I was doing at that point because I was so young. And then after that, I was like, I got to end up working on the Acela Cafe car for the train here from Boston to New York, which was great. This guy, Mark Nichols, worked on some cool little arrays for mics. But it was cool to get into like the methodologies that IDEO has with their design. And that office was really just full of amazingly talented people that have gone on to do great things. And then obviously, I mean, there's a ton more in Boston. I think being at Proteus back in the day, I owe a lot to like Bill Balls, who was my first full-time boss. I worked for him for over a year. He was with us at Sprout for a while as well. But really just helped me to grow into like a solid all-around designer. And there, Proteus was a lot of housewares type products, which was super fun, hardware stuff. Also kind of why I wanted to jump to the West Coast to get more into tech. And then obviously Astro. I mean, you can't have any more impact than that. I mean, day one, there's massive Herman Miller models everywhere. By the third week, I mean, we were working on Nike stuff. We were doing early Alienware gaming stuff. And then the Xbox project was really amazing because this showed up with like 6 models. Maybe Brad will tell you about it when you talk to him, but 6 or I might have been more, maybe like 12 models from every known designer in the world. There was like a Mark Newsom one. There was, every other design agency had done one.
Oh, wow.
And they were like throwing it all out. We need to do something different. These aren't testing well, or I can't remember what the reason was. And then to watch like, the second coming of it ended up being the Xbox 360 come to life. Super, impressive in terms of process and talent and studio, and just learned so much there.
The Xbox 360, was that the second generation?
Yeah, that was like the white. It came out with the white one with like the Inhale. Little language guy Matt Day was. The whole studio worked on it, but Matt Day and Mike Simonian were really one of the ones that pushed that design forward. We all got to throw down concepts, but it was really cool. And it was a fast-paced project. I mean, it start to finish, I feel like it was under 3 months, and they were starting to figure out production on it.
That's nuts. And to think, I mean, the pressure of having kind of like all the competitors' models there as well, and they're not good enough.
I mean, and they were beautiful. I mean, I can't even tell you, like, I would love to look at those today and just see that lineup of those concepts, And then, again, with the studio, we kind of did the same thing. We probably had like 12 of our own, and we had to figure out which ones we were going to present. It was really cool. Yeah,
that's fascinating. I didn't know that. No, that didn't come up when I spoke to Brett. I know, obviously, they designed the Xbox 360 amongst other many kind of awesome things, and kind of over the years. But that's fascinating insight. That kind of here's a conveyor belt of all of the beautiful failed stuff. But makes it better.
It's probably a story people don't always tell. And I don't even know if it's failed. I mean, again, I think like a lot of this was like back in that day when you had that much money for a project. It's kind of in a bake-off, kind of not. I just want to see what was going to happen.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, in terms of kind of, let's talk about kind of Sprout then, because my understanding is that it's been an evolution, hasn't it? It started as a kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, like a mechanism to contract and get it out in front. It was you for, how many years was it? Just yourself?
For 10.
10, yeah.
Way over. So 2001 to 2014. That's not technically true. I had friends that contracted with us, of course, to get all the work done. But I mean, I can tell the starting story is a good one. So I worked at Razorfish. I could tell stories about this place for days. There a year and a half. But at a very young age, 23, I was the director of or the lead for the Boston Design Friday. There was nobody else in the office. They bought a 450-person software company. They wanted to add product design. Tucker was running New York with a woman, Martha Davis, and this guy, Steve Johnson, who used to run IKEA. It was crazy. I mean, first day of work was, we'll pick you up tomorrow, what's your address? Guy shows up in a black car, take a private jet to New York to go pitch Hayworth. I'm day one,
Wow.
Tucker and some of these pretty experienced vets were in the room to run the show. And I was like, wow, what did
You're
I get
23 at
myself
this
into?
point.
I'm 23 years old. Yeah, this is like 2000.
Yeah.
Or 99, 2000, I was there.
Wow.
Anyways, long story short, it was just this massive wave. I think they had 30 offices, over 3,000 people. It blew up, right? And it was great. And it ultimately blew up with the .com for bad reasons, and I ended up taking this package. They, the two founders, Jeff Dacus and I can't remember, Craig something, give this big speech in front of all 450 employees. And they start off by saying, thank you for making our dream come true. And then it gets bad. And it's like, we're going to be doing layoffs. But, .com thing, they were great. I think they would have totally succeeded. It just wasn't happening. But being like one of the few ID guys there, I had just kind of seen the writing on the wall. And I was like, oh, I want to take this package. I got a 6-month package to start Sprout, basically.
Yeah.
So when somebody's like, here's your severance package, I was like, oh, I'm not going to blow this. I'm going to start a company with it.
Yeah.
Incorporated the next day. Immediately, some of the clients that I was working with there that they had to drop contracts, they didn't have any work on them, called. So it's I started with Coors Light, Fidelity as clients. It was crazy. And then all the other stuff I was doing on the side.
Yeah.
It was going well. And then I went to this another Ideas Day conference. So, the Astro guys in Monterey. Kyle was like, hey, what do you think about trying it again? Checked out my new portfolio, all that stuff. And I was like, yeah. I'm like, what do you got? He's like, I got a 6-month contract. I was like, sounds amazing. I went home, kind of told friends and family, packed everything I had into 2 suitcases and 2 bikes and shipped them out there. And then sure enough, the turnaround on that was just amazing to see that transition. So I kept Sprout nights and weekends because I'm on contract for I think about 2 years. Got the full-time gig, did a bunch of stuff. But 2008 kind of got gently nudged out the door, which was fine. There just really wasn't, for me, it was it's time to really go. I had a lot of contract work and Astro was great, but I think they were you should probably go and do your own thing, which was awesome.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
It was a tough day. I mean, I just had a kid and all that, but at the end of the day, this was something that was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think in talking to everybody after the fact, I mean, I never would have, I don't know if I would have started Sprout. I could have just stayed at Astro for years. It was so much fun. Anyway, so I went that way. I did about 1.5 years, I think, still in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Started building it up, lots of startup stuff, which was great. And then just kind of had this unbelievable opportunity to come back to Boston and run the CCO. That was the new title at the time. That's when that was becoming a hot role.
Chief Creative Officer.
Chief Creative Officer for Clio Designs. And the plan was to literally just build as much product as we could and ship it in basically the personal grooming and skincare categories. And I got to run Sprout out of Clio, no problem. I could use my interns, get interns for them, hire staff. It was really great.
Oh, cool.
Kind of a once in a lifetime deal.
Yeah.
So I moved back. My daughter was 1.5. Tested out Cambridge, make sure my wife was okay with it. It was all good. Fast forward to 2014, it got too big. Basically, I think over 100 products in these 3 years or whatever it was.
Wow.
I know it was more than 3 years, but 4 years. And I was like, we're just so busy at Sprout. And that's when I did it. I hired my first employee. We stayed in Clio for a little bit. Then we moved to the basement in Cambridge. Then we got a downtown Boston location. So it was 9 guys in a 700 square foot basement, which we're staying in right now. Not very big. And then to Boston, got to about 15 people. Then we moved to the south end where we are now. And we kind of were plateaued around 25 for a while, then 35, and then 50 people as contractors. I mean, just great growth over the years. And really, that's been the 10 years that I really look at. It's kind of the second coming of Sprout, but the reality is I was never fully all in until then.
Yeah. Where does the name come from?
It's about growth. I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's very obvious where it is.
Yeah.
At the time, I had a lot of angst around what's the name going to be? What's the name going to be? And because I'm a big guy, I was always thought it'd be something about that. But I was no, it really is just about growth, and it applies across all of our different categories of business. What we're doing for different business models, and just growing. Whether it's growing client relationships, client business, our own businesses, it works really well. And obviously in the startup world and entrepreneurial side, it's a good name.
I love it. Yeah, it's awesome. You just mentioned there, obviously, the growth over the last 10 years into the headcount and where you're starting in the basement. I imagine that was pretty chaotic. 9 guys in there.
Yeah, I mean, literally, it was just people bumping into each other. I would hit my head on the ceiling sometimes. Yeah, it was tight.
You got your family upstairs, business downstairs.
Yeah, which was cool. Like, I do think that was probably one of the best things for my oldest daughter, Maya. She could come down after school, and she would, and she'd come and hang out, and those are good times. They'd have a snow day. We'd all walk to Harvard Square with her at lunch and build snowmen, and like just nice to be able to spend that time, because one of the regrets, I think one of your questions you had in there was one of the regrets is like, not so much for design to have regrets, but I wish the years after, when we moved downtown, I could have spent more time. But to build a business, there's only so much you can really do. I was going to San Francisco 10 times a year. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions that was in my head, when you've got kind of your work so close to home, literally in the building, and obviously there's a lot of people that have felt it with kind of COVID and working remotely. How do you kind of create that separation and kind of pull yourself away from work? But it sounds like you had actually a really good balance.
It was easy. I mean, in the regard that we would live on the top 2 floors of the house, and there was a floor in between that at the time our neighbors had owned. So it wasn't like she was right there, and it wasn't too chaotic. And it was only one kid at the time. So I think if it was 2 kids, that would have been too much.
Absolutely, yeah. So what's how's the studio's vision kind of changed over time then?
I mean, this is kind of the story we always tell. And ironically, business has changed such that it really, favors what we do. But I mean, obviously, we pitched every Fortune 500 we could when we were starting, and they were all kind of the same, which was like, you got no track record of your own. You got a great resume. I mean, 5 years if you're still in business. That was kind of what it was. And I was like, shit, that's real. We get some small projects here and there for big companies. But they were one-offs. And then I kind of realized this startup thing is like, and that's a big part of also coming back to Boston was when I left, it was all software. When I came back, there was a massive hardware push in Boston. So consumer electronics caught up here. MIT, Harvard, all the universities are killing it. Super smart kids. And I was like, all right, that's how we're going to do it. And so we really focused, at least the first 5 years, on just startup business, which is awesome because it's like 3 months and you're done. I think when we also started with startups, it was always just about the design, primarily focusing on AD. I'd say after the first project, there's such a bigger opportunity here to own all of it because everything was just a mess. Like there was no cohesion across all their creative deliverables. Then I'm like, also have all this business knowledge that I've gained that they don't have. I realized, I'm recommending CPAs to them, legal to them, structure for companies, like all this stuff. And I'm like, this is like really cool. So I'd get deeper involved. And that became one of the staples of our investment criteria for like any venture was like, you can't just do an ID. We could just do an ID project, but we're not going to give you as deep of a discount in equity, because we always do some cash, some equity. And so we would just kind of insert ourselves and become like, kind of like a behind the scenes, like CEO whisperer, for lack of a better word. And where we could, especially when you get into manufacturing and all the other stuff that goes into building a product. At that point, I guess I had over 10 years of experience. So I'd done enough of it. To really be an asset. So
I guess your time at Astro as well gave you some great insights there. Because I know, speaking to Brett, it's more than just the design.
I considered going back to business school before I went to Astro. I had started to study for the GMATs and all that. Babson is a great entrepreneurial business program locally, one of the best, I think, in the world. I got my MBA sitting behind Brett. Like just saying nothing, just listening, seeing the way he carried himself and like everything he did for the team and for the clients. It was really amazing. So big props to him. And then also Kyle, just like keeping the studio in order, keeping the quality of work up. It's like a tough thing to have a partner, but they, at least from my knowledge, in the almost 10 years of being there, I never saw them argue.
I mean, that's something
pretty amazing. I was going to say, but to answer, what was the original question? I was trying to get back to that.
How's the studio's vision changed?
So all that stuff about the startups, I think to kind of finish that off, what happened is after 5 years, we started working with all of these kind of larger clients like we have today, the Kohlers and the Staples of the world and Kubota, whatever. And the reality is they all want it, quicker, faster, smarter. And to have that kind of lean startup mentality and just, to be able to go quicker, but also integrate into their systems, it's really helped our business because I think for us, we end up being an extension of our team with these larger clients. And we learned that from the startup world. And I think that's the big takeaway. So it's like we practiced for 5 years. really honed it. And now it's like we come in, it's kind of like a soup to nuts skunk works, whatever they want. So,
well, you've got the credibility, you've got the case studies, you've got answers to all the questions that you might have had, or you've got more questions. I think that's the key. If you don't have the answer, you've got more questions. But I think, going after the big kind of brands, it can offer, it's great to having that on your portfolio or kind of on the wall, here, look at all our amazing clients. But I think for a lot of consultancies, in whatever professional service it is, quite often getting that brand on the wall or on the portfolio is really, it's hard work if you can do it, because that relationship that you have, it's very different to the relationship you'll have with a founder or a small business, because with them you're able to offer so much more value and insight and consultancy, as a partner. Whereas quite often at the start of a relationship with a big company, it's like you're just a supplier. You're just a commodity. We need this thing from you, rather than we want to work together.
It's interesting. You mentioned the logo on the wall, right? So that's always the first thing, is like it goes up on the website or wherever. But the bigger thing is to keep that logo on the wall, right? And so that's like staying relevant, and being able to flex. I mean, I think I've said flexibility is probably I've said it probably a few times already, but it's one of the biggest things as a consultancy. You just got to stay flexible.
You mentioned, obviously, going back to growth. Was it 15 people you've hired in the last year? Is it?
Yeah, it's been insane.
And considering how difficult the market's been, like in the last 2 years or so, when I started Kodu, like calling people kind of last January, and it seemed like pretty much like 2 out of 3 designers I speak to had just been laid off. It's just, especially kind of in Boston and New York. So for you guys to grow 15 heads is remarkable.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this is a combination of full-time and contractors. But really, I think for us, the 2 main driving factors are, one, we need a little bit more management layer. So we've always had project managers at Sprout, which a lot of consultants I worked on didn't have. And it was chaos if you were trying to project manage and be the lead designer on stuff. So there was a little bit there on the management layer, but then also like the visualization business. And so really, at the end of the day, it's renderings, animation, but it's just content. Like the world right now, because everything is on your device, which I'm so happy is over there and off, is content. And so whether you need it for online sales and you're doing e-com, or you need it for the newest Instagram post or whatever, it's like we're just pumping this stuff out. And then also, like, it's expensive to do photography. There's a million reasons, depending on what type of products you have, where CGI is just better to do it, especially if it's a small kind of quickly rotated through lots of CMF, or it's like some massive thing like construction equipment. Doing those photo shoots is insane. And then something changes on it, and you got to go do a whole nother photo shoot. Whereas for us, we can just re-render. So anyways, it's been an interesting business, and big props to our COO, CGO. Dan Riley helped me write the business plan for it back before he even left Staples, because we started the business for Staples.
Oh, cool.
And now it's grown into probably the big, I'd say it's as big as ID, it's Sprout, maybe bigger this year even.
Oh, wow. So you've kind of diversified, but I'm guessing it's still for the same target clients. It's just you're able to do more. And
which is great, because you get clients coming in for ID or for branding stuff, and then they find out you do Viz or vice versa. And so it's just they all work well. And really, the reality is we were doing it at the end of every ID feed anyways. And I think there's a lot of CGI agencies out there that are more like, I don't know, like overseas type folks, and they just don't have the attention to detail that a product designer does. And so I think that's why, at least we're doing this kind of like higher end storytelling and these beautiful renderings. That's why people would come to us versus a low cost solution, so to speak. We're kind of in the middle. We're not the top of the line doing crazy motion stuff, but like in terms of renderings, I think we can hold anybody.
But it's all connected, isn't it? So it's like, say, if you can get it cheap offshore, or kind of get suited to it, but if it's not connected to the story, you're going to get kind of mixed results, probably, to be fair, isn't it? So that's fantastic. In terms of your experience and the realities of kind of running a studio, running a design consultancy, it's quite a sexy kind of thing to get into, isn't it? Kind of every designer wants to have their own consultancy, but I think very few understand the actual trade-offs. So what do people most people misunderstand about kind of what you do you think? Hey guys, just a quick one for me, and then we'll get straight back to the episode. If you've ever felt like your pipeline is keeping you up at night, or you're not quite sure where to go next in your design career, And what you really want is to feel more in control of your business, your pipeline, your next move. Maybe even be the person your peers or competitors look to and think, they're onto something. Then check out the Why Design community. It's full of founders, leaders, engineers, and designers working in hardware and physical product development. We share insights, run online and in-person meetups, collaborate on projects, and help each other figure out what's working and what's not. If that sounds useful, head over to teamcodu.com/events to sign up. It's free, low pressure, and genuinely made for people like you. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
God, there's a lot. It's funny. First time I want to look at my notes, but no, I mean, I think the first trade-off, like I talked about, is when you're starting, is like you kind of have to be 24/7, you know, and I still am when needed. But, you know, now we're more established, 30 into my 30s, 40s, you know, I'm almost 50 at this point. And so I gave up a lot of that to grow this business. I'd say until we moved to our current location, really until Dan joined as COO, it was all me at the end of the day. And it's great. And this is something I actually want to touch on, being an independent design firm owner, or just independent owner of any business. It's a totally different thing than having partners. And partners can be good and bad as well. I'm not saying that. I mean, there's very few in industrial design, you know, I think of off the top of my head, I mean, Scott Wilson at Minimal, Dan Harden at Whipsaw. There's only a few independent business owners that are out there. And so it's all you. So that's a lot of trade-off right there. And then, I don't know. I mean,
it's a lot to give up, isn't it? Like when you, in terms of as you scale, as you're growing that business, you know, you've got to delegate to scale. You've got to bring people in and trust with your kind of your baby.
Yeah, I mean, that's the next step. So like I'd say like after, you know, about when we were leaving from our location downtown Boston to the one on Albany Street. So I guess we call these all different levels of Sprout. So it was like Sprout 2.0 to 3.0, right? That was when I got sat down by my creative directors at the time, and they were like, you got to be in or out. It's one or the other. And like, you know, right now it's kind of disrupting the team. You got to trust us. You know, I've known you guys for a long time. Like even before I hired, you know, our other creative director, Rich, or Director Rich, I was like, yeah, you're right. And I got to do it. And that's when we were able to really grow. When I was like, all right, you guys are going to run stuff. The project management was starting to happen with one at the time. And it just evolved from there. You know, we tried a few different people in kind of an operational role until we had Dan. It didn't really work. But overall, what did start to work was trusting the team and not stepping out of design. So big projects, fun projects, personal things that I have passion for, I'll get involved in. Like I still get to be creative every day. But I realized like the networking, you know, the business development side of stuff, the strategic side, you know, getting involved in these early phases of projects that you frame them up is more important than sitting there going like, no, fix that radius, which I do it on occasion. They probably make fun of me for it, but you know, it is what it is. You can't get into the details if you got kind of bigger things to do.
Well, yeah, if you want to work on the business, you can't be working in the business. Is the trope, isn't it? So, but you know, we've been through turbulent times. Well, you've seen a fair few throughout your career, but how does Sprout kind of cope, or ride the waves of kind of
I've now seen four. I think. I mean, I saw it before when I was younger, but I had no idea what was going on. But so I saw the .com bust around 2008. Saw that with you know, just that was another mess, more on the real estate side in the States, but just, you know, sunk the whole financial situation. Goldman Sachs went out, like everything was nuts. COVID, obviously, and then now tariff mania, whatever you want to call it. I've been the same the whole time. It's always like, you know, there's that poster, keep calm, carry on. You know, keep calm, design on. Like, that's it. It's never sunk us before. I've seen ebbs and flows in the business. I've seen lots of different stuff happen. It's just stay positive, stay focused. You know, we really haven't ever had to like lay people off. We had a little bit of a couple folks over COVID that we ended up furloughing. By the time we were ready to hire them back, they got other jobs. But like overall, like we've been able to kind of maintain and like, you know, we stay lean. You know, we do make sure like we've got a nice looking office, but we, you know, we kind of, we're in a basement. We're still not, we don't need to go to Class A, you know, it's like we're fine with what we got. And ironically, the office thing is like we were maxed out before COVID. And we've always kind of been hybrid because of our design director, you know, Matt, he's 2 hours from Boston. So he was already set up COVID, you know, well before. So it made it easy. But yeah, now we might have 15 people in the office a day,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what we're doing. Really only come in to collaborate, within the teams, and then otherwise just more efficient and better for everybody to stay out of Boston traffic. So
absolutely, yeah. And so I know we've talked about this, but you've got a really strong process in terms of kind of the networking, leaning into that, kind of being curious, getting yourself out to events. And I'm guessing that's just consistent kind of sales, isn't it? Business development kind of.
Yeah, I mean, before it was just natural and it was something I really loved to do. And as I've gotten older and want to spend other time doing other things, it was kind of hard. And like COVID, for that reason, I mean, I was, aside from all the bad things that happened, I loved it. I could commute back and forth to have a home in Southern Maine, just only about an hour and 15 minutes during COVID because there was no traffic, which I can't do anymore.
A lot of professional services industries, design and recruiting, they experienced a massive wave of kind of inbound kind of inquiries coming out of COVID, and then it just fell off like a cliff in end of 22, early 23.
Yeah.
Those what I've noticed, looking back, is companies that set up in COVID, especially, kind of managed to ride that wave a lot more because they were already they had to start from scratch. They were already in the business development mode, and it was something they were consistently doing every day and every week.
So what I was getting into, where I was going with the COVID thing, was like, it was great for a lot of reasons, but like, it was a lot of like, I would basically weekly, I would probably 10 meetings with people all around the thing, from clients to other business owners, things like that, just to stay relevant. But it got so comfortable to just be at home in your pajamas doing that, that like when it came back to travel, which, I was kind of the first one to start doing it, it was hard. It was actually hard to do it because you would be like, I'm coming to San Francisco, and like every client was like, we're not going to be in the office. We're not going to be there for another year, this, that, the other thing. So I had to pump the brakes after 2 years, after it. And then like eventually it started up, but it was like, it'd been so long. I kind of had to retrain myself to do it. And this year I was like, I literally have done, call it like
you've been everywhere, haven't you?
Death march. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I don't think, probably twice a month since January, I've been at a show or did a, visits to see clients and whatever. And it's been exhausting. We'll take the summer off from the travel side. But yeah, but it's been good. It's been awesome to network with all these people and just share insights. And I mean, I went to the Milan, the design week in Milan, which I hadn't done for 20 years. I went with Scott Wilson. Basically, we're kind of neighbors. We got not adjoining Airbnbs, but a few blocks away. And like every morning we would just start off. It was really like, he was kind of the only guy that I knew that was going. Bumped into like 2 other folks that we knew. Met like 100 plus people that were fucking amazing. It was so fun to just be there. None of this like political stuff. No one was talking about that. It was just literally like, who are you? What do you do? What do you love about what you do? And just kind of brought me back to like, why design? Right. And I was like, because it's super fun. And, anyway, the creativity behind it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think getting out and seeing people, meeting face to face. It's, I think, one of my favorite things to do. And it's one of the, things that it's so easy to put off, because you're busy, because you've got, projects to deliver. But it's the thing that just pays off time and time again for me. It's like we met at CES across a bar.
Less than 6 months ago, right?
Exactly.
Hanging out.
But I found I kind of knew a guy, Dan Carter, that Oxford Product Design. I've known him for a few years. And we basically buddied up at CES. And so he's a designer, I'm a recruiter, and it was great because we'd go to like these networking events, and like he'd introduce me, I'd introduce him. We're like playing wingman for each other on the networking thing. And it's like we both kind of did well in terms of, you never go to these things expecting to come away with business or deals or anything like that. For me, it's all about kind of getting out there, asking questions, building up those relationships, because you never know.
And it takes a long time. I mean, as you know, we look at like a larger client and we're like, we know that just based on the data analytics we have from what we've done for the last 10 years, it's like typically somewhere between 1.5 to 2 years to kind of land that first deal. And then it can work really well after that, but it takes a while, And so starting those conversations earlier and more often, you're just helping your odds.
Well, you've just got a conveyor belt, haven't you? Or systems just moving, and if you keep in regular contact, you go into the shows, people start recognizing you and taking you seriously. Before you know it, it starts to snowball. It's like compound interest.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, and it is interesting. Let's go back to the Milan thing versus all those other shows. It's like I feel like the other shows is like, I'm Jordan, the owner of Sprout, this firm with X amount of employees that does this stuff. Whereas like in Milan, it was like, I'm Jordan, the designer, and this is what I think is great about design.
Yeah.
And it was nice to get back to that. And it made me, want to go back again. I did end up in New York Design Week as well, which was kind of a mix of that vibe, but also the business vibe. I obviously had a lot of client meetings when I was in New York.
Yeah.
Anyways, but it's an interesting thing. And I think that is kind of wearing the dual hats. I am a Gemini, so I guess I can be the business guy or the creative guy, depending. But yeah, it's definitely interesting and makes all of that travel on top of like being great for business and all the other reasons. Like on the personal level, like I have so many friends, and even this Milan thing, I feel like they'll come visit, or I'll go back and visit them. Like I feel like I've met the first time I've met this many people all at once in like 10 years. It's like almost like going back to college kind of thing. I'm like, wow, look at all these new friends.
Let's talk about business development, because it is very connected to networking. I mean, do you feel, or do you have a dedicated business development function, or is that kind of mainly funneled through yourself? Right there.
So it's me and Dan. I mean, don't get me wrong. We get, again, we get a bunch of inquiries.
Yeah.
Mostly, I'd say when we started, it was all in network. Now we get the combo of kind of in network and then just people finding us because we've been around long enough.
Yeah.
We put money into marketing. We have a marketing director. We definitely kind of understand that aspect of it in this business, although it changes all the time depending on algorithms and what different channels you're trying to do this on in terms of the online side of that advertising. But no, business development, I mean, really, it's me. And at the end of the day, like, that's what you want. You want the owners. And like, again, Dan too. So I would say in general, like I'm handling a lot of the industrial design type stuff, some of the Viz side, the CGI side, it's mostly Dan.
Yeah.
And then we always come together on like the branding and the strategy, and, kind of innovation side of stuff as well. I mean, those are separate things. Yeah. I guess I maybe go a little bit more into the branding. He goes a little bit more into innovation and strategy.
So there's not a specific kind of outbound kind of, you're not cold calling people. It's
no, we will. We totally will. Actually, the one thing we're going to do next year, we've been making like a pitch list, which I never believed in. And this is definitely more from the advertising world, because I've worked with advertising firms before, of like going and pitching clients. There's a couple clients we really want to work for that we think we're perfect for, and we have some great ideas for. And so what we're going to do is like kind of a mini project for each of them and pitch it, not even knowing.
Yeah.
So we'll pitch an innovation strategy to them and see if they bite. And then maybe we'll do some more spec work. Just, also it's good for your portfolio. It's the kind of stuff you can show if you're not getting paid to do it, So that's the only new thing we're going to try. I don't know if it's going to work. But then, on the other side of it, I mean, I would say it's the majority of it is the network. And also like, you have to have the right reputation. And I think, one thing about Sprout, I was like preparing notes and stuff, is like, with us, there's no ego. Like we don't do good with ego. We don't want employees that have ego. We got like a little attitude, a little bit of an edge, but not like in a bad way. It's kind of what you want, like to question it, or like, we get a brief from somebody and we usually send back a page of notes asking, and do you think about this? What about that? And it's not because we're, trying to do anything other than just, show like, hey, this is kind of like this whole process that we offer. And even though you just wanted this one thing, like maybe there's more stuff that plays into it. And they're like, oh, half the time, didn't even think of that. Yeah, add that in. Other times, let's get this done, and then we'll move into that stuff. And other times, like, no, we just need X done. So it doesn't hurt to ask. And, again, just think if you're doing it without the ego side of it, staying humble works really well for that stuff.
I had when I was just getting into sales many moons ago, someone recommended a book called Go For No. Really short book, and it was written like a short story, but the basic premise is that, most people are afraid of failure and afraid of hearing a no. But when you twist it around and you actually target kind of to get rejection, you end up getting more success.
You nailed it. I've heard of the book. I haven't read it. But on the other side of it, it's like, it's a startup lesson, right? Yeah. So fail fast. Yeah. And the other thing is when we don't get projects, like I'm not adamant about it, but I try to really, send a genuine email. Just I'd like to understand why. You don't have to tell us who, whatever, but I'd just like to understand the rationale, because hopefully it will help us, on the next one. And we invested a bunch of time to put, a very unique custom proposal together for you. So it'd be great to understand, what the issues were. And honestly, like 75% of the time, I'll get a great reply back.
It's so valuable, isn't it?
Yeah. It's literally almost better than the wins.
But the reason why I mentioned it was the cross-selling opportunity and the added extras. Because if you just take the first yes of, I want to just industrial design,
Yeah.
and then you don't ask what else they might want, then you're leaving money on the table. You kind of maybe not doing the best service you could offer to the client as well, because there's more stuff that you could bring to the table.
Yeah, totally.
Really, for anyone interested in sales, it's a very accessible, very straightforward concept as well.
Yeah.
In terms of hiring, obviously, you've been doing a lot kind of over the last year.
Yeah.
What do you look for when you're hiring? I mean, is there a specific kind of spark, or
it really depends on the position, and so this is where it's changed, right? So it used to just be designers. That's an easy one. Typically it's always portfolio. Like you got to kind of come through within the first minute of flipping whatever you're sending us.
Yeah,
and it's portfolio, and then number 2 is always personality for me. I mean, it's just cultural fit, and like I said, it's hard to know, but if you see an ego or somebody that's like a know-it-all, like that's not going to typically fly its sprout, no matter how talented they are. No matter what a great deal they are, whatever it is, it's just like you got to be the right cultural fit. It's probably which is something is huge for me, and that's something like we push. Like I think different, and this is from some of the different books that I've read, but things I latched onto, culture of candor, which is basically just treating everybody the same way. So like however you want to be treated, treat them that way. Don't say anything you wouldn't want the person to hear, and speak up. If there's something wrong, like let us know. So that's kind of the one big thing of it. And then I think on the other thing for us, which is different from a lot of firms, is financial transparency of the business. I want them to understand why decisions are being made. If we, whatever it is, whether it's buying equipment or software, or when we can and can't, when we lose a big deal, how that impacts the team. Not to put blame on anybody, but just to say, like, you saw the trajectory of the company, and now this one just vanished, and now it's down here. Or oh shoot, we just got this huge win. We're going to be over. So just sharing that with them, and we do that. We were doing it quarterly, but honestly, it's just been so busy. We've moved out to twice a year now with the company, and just kind of helps, I think, to incentivize them and to help them grow as designers, right? Because you started as a junior designer, and you're just thinking, I'm going to create all day. Yeah. And then I think as you get older, you become more of a manager, you kind of start to need to know that stuff. And, there are people that will do the design track their whole life and never get into management. But in general, at some point, I think so you don't burn out. It's good to kind of learn both.
Yeah, absolutely. But also it gives, when you've got people in the business, that communication, like communicating the vision and the strategy and kind of how the business is performing, it might seem like a bit of just an exercise, but it's super important just to keep kind of people engaged and know what they're working towards, but also kind of, makes those mistakes or those kind of those wins a lot more real. It gives them context. Yeah. So,
I mean, there's like high fives when we win. Yeah. When we actually win a project. I always think that move a boiler room or something when they get somebody. That was a scam. But there's like good excitement within the studio when we get when we get a good sale or a new project.
Are there any specific questions that you ask or tasks that you give that help you spot kind of talent that's going to thrive in your culture?
We have like question sets that are the same that we've really honed and things like that. To be honest, it's we have like 3 levels of interview. So we have like the first is like kind of preliminary. After we've really whittled it down, typically we try to get to like 3 candidates, ideally sometimes it's 5. And so we do that first round of interviews, which is more the junior team. Then we bring in like the management, like the director level people. And then I'll do the last one. But I'd say the biggest thing is like just calling the references. Like it sounds so obvious, but people don't do that. That goes a long way. I figure out who that person is, make sure that it's not like, their roommate. But no, and often, I know them. So it's really good because it's just like texting a friend and being like, hey, so-and-so worked for you 4 years ago. How were they? And you get like a great answer right away. And I'm like, all right, I know this person. I know who I'm asking. If they're saying this about this person, it's, depending on what they're saying, it's a yes or no. It's that simple.
It goes back to the power of networking as well. It's like keeping in touch with people you've worked with and you've met at shows. Yeah, it makes that's like a superpower. Awesome. Right, we're approaching the end, but we've got a big one to dive into now. Then state of industrial design. We've been through shifts, as you mentioned, kind of 4 shifts, but and the tools that are available now in terms of AI. Kind of the industry's changing so fast, but is it evolution or revolution? Kind of how has the kind of role of ID changed for you?
I'll unpack it. I think it's evolution. Just like, I can bring up a million analogies. I just wrote an article for IDSA on kind of comparing this to when I was the last class at RIT to do hand drafting, and next year we got introduced to CAD with MicroStation, which is also gone by now. But like, people were fucking up in arms in it. The old people that either were just very stuck in their ways. Also, some of them were really open to change. It just, you have this same thing that you're having with AI right now. I'll get more into AI in a second.
Yeah.
But I mean, I give you just like my thoughts, like statistically on it. And again, I've spent this last 6 months really kind of getting out there and talking to lots of like-minded business owners and just business owners in general in this field. And like, I feel like there's probably about 25, maybe a little bit more % less ID work out there right now. I feel like there's multiple drivers for this, which is, I mean, the new one, which is obvious, the tariff thing and people just being skittish, which is a lot of what that translates to is a lot of start stop right now, which is now more start as of like the last few weeks, which is great. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is because of COVID, right? So like people saw, let's keep, let's do line extension, simple stuff, CMF, like really, really simple things to just keep it going and packaging, low-hanging fruit, and they survived. And so it let them know, but I think this is really good for the environment, by the way, that we don't need to churn. I mean, Apple will probably still keep doing a new cell phone every 6 months, or maybe they're to a year now. But I think it let people know that you don't need to have the newest, hottest thing all the time. I mean, if it's super groundbreaking, go for it. Yeah. But I mean, just to go and make a new keyboard and mouse just every 6 months to do it, it doesn't make sense. So things like that, I think, have helped to kind of slow our business a little bit. And then also just think there's just the harsh reality of like all the startups from the last 15 years that just shit the bed. So the VC money is just not there. I mean, you can think of your share, at least for me, I think of a lot of Kickstarter flops or like, just some big public, companies that went out. I mean, I think it started with, I can't remember the name of that, the Pebble Watch was like another started, right? So VCs put a ton of money into hardware, and it's like, I use this all the time, and I've got some different things that we've written white papers over the years about it, but like hardware's hard. You hear this all the time. Yeah. Software's not easy, but you can like rev it and fix it, and it's really easy. But you have like a hardware recall, you're starting over. Yeah. It's expensive to tool. Like there's so many reasons that you can kind of get into it. So it's like, you really got to have the right product. I think people have just gotten smarter to it. Again, the VC money is a little bit, I wouldn't say completely dried up, but I mean, they're going to do more diligence around all of that stuff. And so I think that's kind of affected the hardware startup community. There's still some great stuff, I think that's going to come out. It's still going to happen. There's just a little bit less of it. And then, the other side too, I think we're seeing some great projects these days. But often, budgets are challenging. So, you do what you got to do. For us, it's like, it's really important to keep ideas a core part of us. And so, we just make sure that we can, compete both on a, price level, but also keeping the work really high quality and, just try to keep as much of it in the studio as you can, because it will come back around. And I do feel, I guess, to conclude all of that, I think we'll see another boom for physical product design too. I just think right now it's a little touch and go, getting better. So.
I think the uncertainty kills it, doesn't it? But then, a lot of the consultancy owners that I speak to, they'll reference freelancers kind of winning work from them because they're cheaper resource in some respects.
It's always been there, though. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I kind of started as one. I know it. I know all the guys in Boston that do it. They're great. So we'll use them. But I don't know if that's the reason, to be honest. Especially like corporations. The thing is, if you're a big corporation, you really sometimes just need, that people power. You need a bigger firm to do a lot of this stuff. And the one-off, like smaller ID project, I can see that. Yeah.
It's not. You're not just saving money there, you're potentially creating other problems, because if you've got a bunch of different freelancers, it's like they're not all working
on the
synergy.
Freelance side. I think what I actually would say, this is like an interesting one, but like when somebody leaves a corporation that they really like and they want to go freelance and do their own thing, that will draw some business from some of these big corporations, because they want, they already trained this person and they love working with them. And they're like, all right, well, they already know the system, so that I think will. But in terms of just there's always been a ton of freelancers out there.
Yeah, absolutely. What about China, or kind of factories kind of getting better at design as well? Obviously, they've always been really good at engineering, but
I mean, there's a little bit of this, but I also feel like communication becomes a big part. It depends who the clients are. And I mean, again, like, I don't know, you tell me. I mean, I look at like award-winning work, and there's more overseas firms doing it or Asian firms doing it, but I don't know. It still seems like it's
they're not there.
Not that big of a competition yet. I do like, we work with a few of them. Quite honestly, some of them are boots on the ground. They can go and they can really kind of bring a product into production and really help with that stuff.
you're not too worried about
it's
it.
good. I think I have a bigger thought on industrial design.
Yeah.
It's like, it's still just a really small profession. And even though there's a decline in work, I do still feel like there's enough work. I think the biggest pinch right now is, I think, for like young students coming out, and they really need to kind of just figure out what their track is. There's lots of ways for them to go.
Yeah.
But for them to find a specialty or a niche right away is tough. It's definitely harder to get an internship coming out of school. It's harder to get a junior level job right now than it's ever been. I think we were talking about last night, like typical internships, we would get, 150, 200 like applicants a year ago. Now we're getting twice that. And I feel for them, and I kind of give them all the same advice, which is like, keep your head out, do that thing where you're kind of contacting people but not being annoying, to stay in front of them.
Yeah.
And you just got to kind of put the work in and deal with it and hopefully get by.
You've got to treat the job search as a job. When you're at that level, or if you're out of work as a more experienced designer, 'cause at the end of the day, you only need one.
There's also like my little more combative answer, which is like, hey, like you're like, for me, like being an industrial designer, I actually think if I had to describe what I am, I'm actually a creative problem solver that goes across business and design. So you have a problem right now, you need to creatively solve.
Yeah.
And does that mean doing really cool, like innovative projects on your own to stoke your portfolio? Does that mean doing your own startup, and go and raising some money, whatever it is like, I don't know, like I'm sure there's a billion sayings, but like, sometimes you get a raw deal and you gotta figure it out and get by. And it's, it's just part of life, unfortunately. I don't want to sound like a hard ass because it's like the last thing that I am, but like, again, keep calm and design on, figure it out. Yeah,
and that's great advice. I think, just treat it like a project, get stuck in, do the work, good stuff will happen.
Yeah. Make sure you're doing something you love. Also, like, hey, you're going to pick your own projects, make sure that's something you really want, right? So you went to the store and you're like, this doesn't exist. I want to make this. Oh, I'm trained to do that.
Yeah.
Done.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. We're going to wrap this up then with talking about the Boston design scene, and kind of what's coming up. You're clearly deeply embedded in the Boston design scene. I've been privy to that just the last couple of days. But what do you think makes Boston a good place? To run a design.
For
business?
Me, like I also know I'm always about the numbers and the stats, but like when I started, everything the network that I built was all through the IDSA.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was really it. And there was core, there's some other things. Now there's a lot of stuff. But I was the chair in Boston when I first got out of school, which is kind of attract a lot of people that I've known have done, which is great. We had the biggest chapter. We were like 500 like paid members, and it's declined just as an organization over the years because of all of the other organizations that are out there now. So it's always been huge here, and designer wise, there's lots of other design disciplines in Boston too, whether it be like on the UX side of stuff or that. So it's like, it's an easy community to be into. I think it rivals San Francisco in a lot of ways in terms of the sheer size. There's only there's other cities that have it in the US, but it's like Boston, Chicago, Seattle, kind of Pacific Northwest area, I guess a little bit in Portland. Yeah. Then you get like the San Francisco is like a huge hub. There's a little bit through the rest of California. And then New York, which is just this massive different design hub of all kinds of design, right? But the community here is like, and it's also why I kind of moved back with Sprout. Another reason I didn't really think of it, but I kind of did, was like just retention. Like people here are like, I don't know, it's a little bit more personal, and people, they really kind of go out for each other, and they'll go to bat for each other, and they'll make sure that people can find work. Once you're in that network and you've got enough people, it's just it's always giving back. And I've always been like a pay it forward kind of guy. So whether it's making donations to do events or doing our own events to kind of help. We do, to be honest, like we do probably 8 of them a year. We do kind of office hours, and we do digital, and then we do flip to in person every other month. And we kind of got that down now, which is great. But that's like our giving back to the community, because we can't give everybody an interview, but that's your opportunity to come in either physically or be there virtually and find out whatever you can from Sprout. And, we give like sometimes up to 3 hours, per session. And there's, sometimes there's 10 people and sometimes there's 40 or 50 people. It's kind of crazy.
It's interesting to think where it all sprouts, where people go off after kind of being in one of those sessions.
Well, we're doing our 10-year anniversary, and I'm working on just kind of like what we're going to do creatively. So we're going to have a big party on 17th September. Yeah. We'll be sending public announcement out and things like that soon. But part of that is actually I want to do this like Polaroid timeline of like, there's been over 100. This is last time I had this pulled was a year ago. We had over 150 people that had been through Sprout.
Awesome.
Over, just pulled from QuickBooks. So I'm like, all right, everybody that's ever been paid by Sprout. Pretty wild, yeah. And so like, all I really want to have on there is like a picture of them, this Polaroid. If they can't show up, we'll just make one. And like basically the year they were at Sprout, maybe the department they were in, and like where they are now. It's freaking amazing. I mean, at some point we had 2 excellent Sprout employees when we went from Sprout 2.0 to 3. Go to Apple. And they were like, the way Apple recruits is crazy and spot on, and they're so good at it, right? It was like they, I talked to both of them, and they were like, kind of like, awful, and I'm like, hey, this is the biggest compliment I've ever got.
You're looking at
go for it. I'm like, there's nothing I can say here other than go.
Absolutely. Well, that's it's hard to lose staff, but it's it's also like to be mature enough and progressive.
I mean, one of the two's come back and done projects with us.
Oh, amazing.
I'm still friends with, I mean, I would say like I'm still in contact with like honestly over like 90% of the people that worked at Sprout. I go to New York and we had our old interns and an old employee there. And we were hanging out. One of them had something at the ICFF. I mean, just super cool to see these guys kind of spread their wings, guys and gals. And it's been really, really interesting as a business owner, but also like, again, like I always joke I'm the CFO, but that's the F isn't for finance, it's for fun. So I like try to make, fun is different these days as well. It's not always about, going to a bar after work anymore, but we do some great content for our people. We've had awesome offsites all through the years. My family knows most of the employees that have been through Sprout. It's great, and although, I say we're more of a team than a family, I think after Sprout, feels more like family than team. Yeah. So
that's awesome. Right, book recommendations then. Do you want to get your phone out?
I mean, I'll start with my first that got me into all these books. I should get my phone out. I got some good ones. But I mean, Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week, that was how I think I was like originally able to scale, because just delegation, and not about going to get micro work and all this stuff from everywhere else, but just kind of the methodology behind doing that. All the Malcolm Gladwell books on the marketing side, name which one, they're so great. Can I get my phone?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I bike a lot and I listen to these, so somewhere between podcasts and these books all the time.
So I love those things where you're, the 4-Hour Work Week. I've got the 12-week year on my reading list. I'm going through, crikey, what's it called? Traction.
Yep.
I'm reading Traction.
Yeah, we were talking about last night. That is on my list, by the way. I looked and I'm like, oh, there it is.
Yeah. There's a whole ecosystem of books around Traction, and my fiance, I ordered a bunch of them. Yeah. It's around like the entrepreneur's operating system.
Yeah.
And so Traction is about the business and how you kind of set the vision and the systems in place to scale a business. But then the operating system that kind of sits in the middle, you can then apply to your life. So you talk about kind of your life goals and what you want to do and all that kind of stuff. And it literally comes with a diary that you can fill out. And my partner thought it was hilarious that I've kind of gone into this self-help stuff. But I think anything that you can take away from those to apply to business in your life, I love it. I think the only problem I have is I then start thinking, how can I apply this to my business?
Yeah, totally.
And your head starts spinning, but no, it's awesome.
Why I'm having such a hard time finding all these. I've got a couple. I mean, I get some basic ones like Build, Tony Fadell. I mean, that's just an awesome hardware book.
Yeah.
Atomic Habits is like just in terms of like success. I think that's really good. These two kind of go together, but Dopamine Nation, which is like, Dopamine Nation, just a good read on kind of like, just in general, like what keeps people going, kind of what's going on in society today. And this, led to this other book, The Anxious Generation, that I'm reading as well, which is kind of around screen time and just instant gratification that everybody's used to. And like, for me, I feel like this is one of the subjects. There's two right now that are like personal to me that I'd like to do some creative problem solving around. One is like this, just not so much the anxious generation, but the phone, which is causing it, just downtime from the screen and people just walking around every day. I love just putting my phone away. It's like my favorite thing to do when I can.
It's something someone said, I think I was on a training course once, or a round table, and someone in the group mentioned, one of their advisors has this kind of power play or power move when it comes to the phone.
Yeah.
So he'll take his phone and say, "Can you just? I don't want to look at this. You sat across dinner. I don't want to look at this. Can you just hold on to that for me?"
Yeah.
And then it then almost forces the other person to do the same, and they put their phones away, and then they're in the conversation and they're engaged.
Yeah.
And I thought, I mean, that is a proper like manipulation of human kind of psychology, isn't it? But it's brilliant.
Yeah. It's a big deal. Like it really is, like taking time out. I mean, just get outside for a walk. If you have 15 minutes, even shitty out, whatever. Just stop what you're doing, take a break.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's like these long being like 2 or 3 hour bike rides where you just get in this rhythm. It's almost like a flow state.
Yeah.
I can be like 5 super hard problems I can't figure out, and I get back from the bike ride.
Yeah.
And I got it. I figured it out. And it's just getting away. I found them. I found all the books. This is awesome. Books. And I love all these books. So I let my people go surfing, right? Yeah. So Yvon Chouinard, Patagonia. This is like the whole like live work, make sure that you play hard, or whatever you want to call it. Amazing. No rules, right? So Reed Hastings from basically from Netflix, but their culture, and that's a lot of that like culture of candor and like again like just treating your people right to scale. Malcolm Gladwell, who Blink is one of the books.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a bunch of Seth Godin books that are awesome. And then I'm just trying to see Howard Schultz. I forgot about this one. This one's great. So the founder of Starbucks.
Oh, cool.
Pour Your Heart Into It.
Yeah.
Great book. Again, kind of around product and building businesses. Anyways, I mean, I think those are. I've got way too many books in here, but like that's a good sample of it. Yeah. And I think it also like kind of ranges from stuff that's like very design minded to just like stuff that's good to know and kind of keep you going as a human being.
Absolutely, yeah. Have you read Creativity Inc? Because you mentioned Candor quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's I forget his name, but it's one of the founders of Pixar, and he talks a bit when he was planning to retire. He wrote his memoirs, and it became Creativity Inc. But it's essentially. It's a blueprint for creating a creative workforce at scale, but maintaining that kind of culture. And at the core of it is a radical candor, and their kind of brain trusts and kind of in these kind of brain trust sessions, everyone's a peer. There's no hierarchy, regardless of what your job title says. Everyone has a say at the table, and everyone is listened to, and everyone is honest with their feedback.
Yeah,
and you all understand like. Whatever's said in the room is with the view to make the project the best it can be.
Yeah,
nothing's personal. We criticize the project. We don't criticize the individual and that kind of stuff. It's like one, it's a really interesting story because of the his background and where they started with Pixar, working at Lucasfilm, working with Steve Jobs as
definitely got to read it.
And it's quite poignant towards the end as well, but then there's so many like lessons that you could apply to any business. So there you go, there's one for you. Just absolutely fascinating stories.
Nice.
But Jordan, we'll wrap it up there. It's been a really interesting conversation. I've loved diving into that and getting to know you as well over the last couple of days, and I'm very grateful to have you on the show.
Thanks. I'm super happy to be here. Honestly, I think you kind of brought it in at the beginning, but I'm like, I feel lucky that I fell into this profession, but it's just brought me so much joy and all the people I've met in the years and so on. It's just such a great thing. And, it stemmed from one thing. I was thinking like one parting word here, but it was like my dad would always tell me like, you got to do something you love. And so I just feel like really lucky to have found it. This is great. I love opening up and, sharing the stuff.
I love that. It's a nice way to bookend the conversation as well. Going back to the start. So totally. Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening to this episode of Why Design, proudly powered by Kodu. If you got something out of today's conversation, I'd love it if you could leave a quick review or share the episode with someone who will find it useful. It really helps more people discover the show. And if you're working in hardware or physical product development, whether you're a founder, leader, engineer, or designer, come and join the Why Design community. We're running events, sharing insights, and connecting people who are building great things. You can sign up at teamkodu.com/events or just drop me a note on LinkedIn. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.